name is Socorro Robles, and I am from Matamoros, Tamaulipas, Mexico.
My name is Jose Munguia. I was born in Morelos, Mexico.
I grew up in Zacatecas, Fresnillo, Zacatecas, since I was 1 until I was 14. And then we moved to Guadalajara, and I went to school in Guadalajara, and then until I was 17, and then I moved to USA. I lived in US for 41 years between Orange County and LA County.
So in Mexico, I currently do remote work for a property management company located in Wyoming. I was taken to the US with my parents at 3 years old.
What I liked more, it was the comfort.
When I was in the US, I worked several different jobs. I did construction. I ran fiber optic cable for a subcontractor company. Worked at nightclubs. Ultimately, when I became a DACA recipient, I worked for a Toyota dealership and a radio station.
The reason that I returned to Mexico again is my mother. To take care of her. She's 91. She was 91 when I moved back to Mexico. And she's 93, 94. She's going to be 94, and I'm taking care of her. When I arrived to Mexico, I was surprised and excited. There is a huge difference between USA and Mexico. The differences are the money, the everyday life. Everything I do in Mexico is totally different from USA. Food, people, streets, cities.
One of the main things that I've had to adapt to over the years has been work, and also the food. The food is different. The food is a little bit more natural, less processed.
Some of the challenges that I had to go through are the water, for example.
There's days, the holidays are different. I still get the American holidays off because of my job.
For shopping, for grocery shopping versus Mexico, I go to the swap meet. And then at the beginning I was priced for every single little thing, the chile, tomatoes, the potatoes, carrots, everything. I had to ask the prices because no prices in it. Here my address, close to my address, we are like 20 families that came from USA. And we kind of look at each other and we say hi, that's all we say, and then we start talking in Spanish. But when we say hi, we identify that we come from USA to live in Mexico. And we are like 20 families. Perspective in life is changed. In USA wasn't very Catholic, I will say. I didn't went to church many times. Like in Mexico, I back to my church, and some people and I would go to a group of families to enjoy the experience. And I noticed that in Mexico, a lot of families go to church together, and every weekend, I see them at church, and that makes me feel very comfort, very Mexican, very Catholic, and it makes me feel like I'm so lucky person to be able to go to USA and live as a USA citizen, and come to Mexico and live as a Mexican. So I feel like I'm very fortunate. It was very difficult also. The hot water running in the kitchen to wash the dishes. It was beautiful in USA, but in Mexico we had to warm up the water to wash dishes with grease. And it takes longer. And gas, we burn more gas in order to do that. But we have to do it, especially in very, very cold days. You cannot wash the greasy dishes with cold water. You have to warm up water to wash them. I reached my goal by saving, and it took me years, but I did it. Adapt myself to Mexico. I feel proud of myself and people who surround me. They're being very understanding, but I feel comfortable. And I told my daughters, I did it and you guys can do it too. At the beginning, it was difficult when I travel back to USA, for whatever reason I need to go, crossing the line from Mexico from Tijuana to San Isidro, it takes me 3 hours sitting on the car, bump to bump. So 3 hours sitting on the car is difficult, especially now. But always with Mexican music in the car, so we can sing and buy a popsicle and buy a torta or buy a soda, whatever you want. They sell everything before you cross the line. That was a challenge. It was difficult, a lot of time consuming. But at the end, I choose to do it. It was my goal to go and do whatever I need to do there and come back. To come back to Mexico is the same story, bumper to bumper, especially Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Monday to Thursday is less time, both ways. But my experience has been worth it. Everything I do, I feel so proud of myself because I have the opportunity, God gave me the opportunity to do it in both countries. And it's difficult to talk English and then Spanish, and then have dollars and then pesos. Have people who like to go to Disneyland and places like that, and then have people to go to the movies. That's it. According to my knowledge, I have a little, what did I say, respect or no, to places where you can go here. I don't really enjoy it because I don't have friends here, just my mom 24/7, but I'm happy. I'm happy here with my mother. And another thing that was very difficult to adapt, it was the money. I didn't know how to deal with Mexican money or with American money, and very often people look at me like I didn't know how to change value of the money. And what they said is like they try to raise the prices because they don't know, I don't know how to deal with it. So I did a little thing that I want to comment on. I went home and I got a page and I write down $1, how many pesos, $2, how many pesos. So I got a pretty much idea how much it would cost in one item. And I will compare all the time. When it was time to go shopping for myself, clothes, it was difficult. And it swallowed me. I will pay $7 to $10 for one pants, nice jeans. And in USA I paid $60. So it was big difference. But I adjust myself. I learn how, and everything thanks to my mama, because otherwise I won't be here. It was a big change. And another thing also, it was my skin. It started to be dry and wrinkles because of the cold weather, the dirt. The water is different quality. And I started buying a cream for my face that I used to pay $60 for a little jar, and I don't have that money because I used to make 60, 70, 80 to 90,000 a year, and I can adjust myself to 1,000 a month. 12,000 a year compared to 80 is a big difference. And I learned too. It was very difficult to adjust the issue, but I learned, and everything thanks to my mama. Now I can, if someone invite me to USA, I can go and feel comfortable, come home and feel comfortable too.
And so when there are Mexican holidays or Mexican festivities, local festivities, and you have parades that'll go through front of the house, and those festivities are shut up. We'll restart the question.
Has any of this caused a strain on you? Any of the things that you have had to adapt to, have they caused a strain on you?
I think a lot of the stuff that I've had to adapt to have caused strain on me. Simply because trying to adapt, trying to learn how to redo things, how to do things differently here. Day to day here is different. Doing laundry here is different. Going to go buy groceries here is different. Just going to the market versus going to a supermarket is different. Because I go to the market, I'm not going to find ketchup to, put on some French fries, some homemade French fries, and buying foods that I'm accustomed to, foods that in the States I'm accustomed to. You go to the market here, and there's fresh produce, there's produce that's different, that's new, that I've never seen before, and having to ask, and the local people look at you like, what, don't you know what this is? So the judging still happens. My mom always says, this is what I was afraid of, because you're neither from there nor from here. In Spanish they say ni de aquí ni de allá. So it's different because people just look at you different. They look at you different. And especially in the rural part that I live, people don't know what family, everybody's family tight, and they know who's who. So when they see somebody different, they're like, who's that? And they start pointing and looking at you different because you are different.
You're doing such a good job, by the way. Such a good job. Would you or can you return to the U.S.?
Returning to the U.S., per my attorneys, is a possibility. When I first got here, my mother would ask me what I wanted to do if I wanted to return to the States the day I could and I was able to. At that particular moment when she asked me, I always would tell her, you know what, Mom, let's cross that bridge when we get there. Over the years, over the time, especially now that I'm very into watching the news, especially in the States, and seeing everything that's going on with the new administration, how they are just rounding up people and how they're handling the situations and just treating the immigrant community. It sets outrage, it breaks my heart, and my mom asked me that same question again. And I said, you know what, Mom? I would go visit and spend some time there, but I think ultimately I would rather live here.
Have you been able to rebuild stability in Mexico?
I have been able to rebuild stability to a certain extent because having lived in the States for so long, you're accustomed to different things, accustomed to things that here are more expensive. Here, they're a little bit different or harder to find, not necessarily different, but harder to find. And when you do find those things, since people know you want those things, they exaggerate on the price, they overcharge you. There are things that you can't find. So that sense of stability, it's there to a certain extent, not the extent that I wish it was there.
What has been the greatest challenge to adapt to?
I think that the greatest challenge that I've had to adapt to is just being here. Being here. Although it might be my birth country, it's not home.
Have you tried to return to the US?
I have not tried to return to the U.S. I have told myself that the day that I go back to the U.S., I want to do it the legal way. I want to be able to go back, and if I want to come back to Mexico, I can come back to Mexico and go back to the U.S. without any repercussions.
What do you miss most about the US?
What I miss most of the U.S. is my family, my friends.
Do you have any message about your experience to the community?
Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype because you don't know what it's like unless you've been in the shoes of the person. The year that I spent away from my family, it might not have been hell, but being in places that you wouldn't wish anybody to be in. People say, "Oh, well, they're in a jail cell. They're being treated great. They have a meal." Some of those places are not as sanitary as they say they are. The jail cell that I was in during my immigration holding was a cell that was dirty. There was mold on the walls. There was mold on the bathrooms. Even though they gave us bleach to clean the showers, the mold was there. I slept on a 2-inch gym mat in a cell with 4 people to it. Drinking water came in a 5-gallon jug from the Gatorade ones that you see on the sidelines of your sporting events, football games. You were given 3 boxers for a week to do your laundry. The food sometimes wasn't cooked all the way. So, especially to the administration now, and the people that support it, that say, well, yeah, they're doing a great job. They're not. The things that I've seen, the things that I've had to dealt with. They're not. They're not treating people as humanely possible. And I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
That's so fucking rad. You gave me such a good interview. And the part where you're crying, I'm gonna fucking include that in there. You did so good.
We don't have running water. We have to buy in a pipe and then get it to the kitchen any way we need to do it. Or to take a bath, you have to do it with little coquita, they call it. And we don't have showers. We have to put water in our head in order to take a shower. And food also. The first year we don't have refrigerator, so we have to buy everyday food from the store because no fresh. And also no pavement. The streets are just dirt. It's like if you shower in the morning, you have to shower at nighttime too before bed because your hair is so dirty and everything is so dusty. It's funny, but that's what it is. Where I live, we live in a house very poor. We don't have the money to live near to the city, so we were suffer a lot. But I was with my mother, and that was worth it. For her, anything.